Hello everyone, good morning. Today's topic is system life cycle. We may consider large-scale computer programs as that contains many different interacting parts, many different complex interacting parts. As systems, these programs undergo a development process called system life cycle. It can consist of different stages called requirements, analysis, design, coding, and verification. Even though we treat these as separate phases, these phases are highly interrelated. Let's begin by talking about the first phase, requirement phase. All large programming projects begin with a set of specifications that defines the purpose of the project. These requirements actually describes the information that the programmer or even the user is expected to give, and the result that we must produce in case of a user. Very frequently, these initial specifications are defined very vaguely. That means that the programmer must develop rigorous input and output descriptions that includes all the cases, so that all the possible type of input and outputs are being considered. So in the requirement phase, we are supposed to give the specifications that defines the project. The requirements specifications mainly focus on input and output. The inputs that are going to get into the system, the output what is expected from the system. The second phase is analysis. After we have defined the system's requirements, the analysis phase begins. In this phase, we begin to break our problem into manageable pieces. There are two approaches to analyze a system. One is a bottom-up approach, the second is a top-down approach. The bottom-up approach is an older unstructured strategy that places an early emphasis on the coding fine points. Since the programmer is not having a master plan of the project, the resulting program may frequently have many errors, or the parts may be loosely connected. That is, when we are building, when we are trying to construct a building from a generic blueprint, that is, we view all buildings identically. That means we must have walls, roof, plumbing, heating, etc. The specific purpose to which the building will be put is irrelevant from this perspective. Means that we are considering every building as same. So that's how the programmer begins. The programmer directly try to start with an early coding fine points. Whereas the top-down approach begin with the purpose, that is just opposite to what we have seen in the case of bottom-up approach. The programmer begins with the purpose that the program will serve and uses this end product to divide the program into manageable segments. So in this case, alternate solutions are developed and compared. This technique also generates diagrams that can be used in the case of design. Diagrams like data flow diagrams or any other diagrams which are relevant in the case of design phase. So that's about analysis phase. In the analysis phase, we will be bringing our problem into different manageable pieces. There are two approaches. One is a bottom-up approach and the other one is a top-down approach, from the program to up, that is to the from directly from the program to the design, or the top-down approach is from the purpose of the program to the corresponding solution. And usually in the case of top-down approach, alternate solutions are developed and compared. Just after the analysis phase, the design phase starts. The designers approaches the system from the perspective of both the data objects and the program needs, and that the program needs, and the operations that are performed on the system. The first perspective leads to creation of abstract data types, while the second requires the specification of algorithms and consideration of algorithm design strategies. For example, a campus automation system, the data objects that are being considered will be students, different courses, what are the different professors, then the interrelation between these, like which student is taking which course and which professor is offering which course, and so on. And the operations that can be performed on these data objects will be like insert a student onto a course, remove a student from a particular course, offer a course by a professor, or search for a course by a student, etc. Since the abstract data types and the algorithm specifications are language independent, we postpone the implementation decisions. Although we must specify information required for each data object, we ignore the coding details. For example, we might decide that the student data object should include name, then his register number, phone number, email ID, etc. However, we will not pick a specific implementation of the student objects. How we are going to store the list of students, how we are going to store the data type, etc. We are not only creating a system that could be written in several programming languages by using this strategy, but we also have time to pick most efficient implementation. So by keeping the implementation away from design, we are actually gaining two things. One is the system can be implemented in any any programming language, and the other advantage is that we can select the most efficient implementation. The fourth phase is refinement and coding. In this phase, we choose the representation for our data objects and write algorithms for each operation on them. So the data objects representation is selected. Maybe a student data object is stored as a list of students, and the operation also specified. in terms of its algorithm, like inserting a course onto a list of courses, inserting a student onto a list of a list of students, etc. The order in which we do this is crucial because a data object's representation can determine the efficiency of the algorithms related into it. So the data representation of the data object is chosen first, then we go for the implementation or the corresponding algorithm. Typically, this means that we should write those algorithms that are independent on the data objects first. So that at any point, if we are changing the representation of the data object, then we should be able to reuse the code which we have defined, which we have written for a particular algorithm. Frequently at this point, we realize that we could not have created a much better system. At some point of time, we will look into another similar system, or we will consult an expert who is having expertise in this area or worked on a similar project. Then we may try to alter our design by including the recommendations by the system or by the expert. So if our original system design is good, it can absorb changes very easily. Otherwise, the inclusion of changes will be very difficult if you are if you are coding our system if you are hard coding so many things and so on. So that is the main reason why we are avoiding an early commitment to the coding details. So the coding details will be taken into consideration only at the end of the fourth phase, refinement and coding. The last phase in system lifecycle is the verification phase. This phase consists of developing correctness proofs for our program or system, then testing the system with a variety of input data, and we try to improve the system, or we try to remove errors, etc. Let's The first step is correctness proofs. Programs can be proven correct by using techniques from mathematics, but these proofs are very time consuming and it is very difficult to develop for large projects. Another alternate solution will be to use algorithms or select an algorithm that are proven to be correct, which may reduce the errors in the system which we have developed. In this context, we can some of the programs or some of the algorithms which we have selected, or the correctness of the algorithms can be tested before actually implementing the code. So by selecting an algorithm that are proven to be correct, we can test our code before actually implementing the code in a programming language. That's another advantage if you use uh, already proven to be correct algorithms. The next step in verification process is testing. Testing, however, requires the working code and set of test data. This data should be developed carefully so that it includes all possible test cases. Frequently, what will happen is a programmer who is not having enough experience will assume that their program ran without producing any syntax error, so it must be correct. But that does not mean that it will work for any given input data. And usually only one set of test data will be used for testing your system. But a good test data should verify every piece of the code runs correctly. For example, if your program contains a switch statement, you should select a test data which checks each of the case statements within the switch statement. Initial system test focus on verifying that program runs correctly, and this is your first concern. In addition to this, you can go for programs performance estimates also. Means that once your program is running correctly, then you can consider the performance estimates like how much time, how much space, etc. That sort of things also, like time test, etc., can be considered. The third step in verification process is error removal. Actually, these are not step-by-step processes. These are highly interrelated, but for the sake of simplicity, we will learn it as a step-by-step process. Error removal means the correctness proofs and the system test will indicate some of the errors. This errors should be corrected, and the error removal from a program depends upon the design and coding decisions which we have made earlier in the earlier phases. If we have designed our system in a very effective manner, then we can correct our errors very easily. The difficulty is that while correcting an error, it can cause another error in some other step in your program code. So if each unit of your program, like each function in a program, is considered as autonomous and which are tested separately, then they are integrated into the system, then the error removal will be an easy task. So these are the three steps in the case of verification process. So that's about system life cycle. Here, large-scale computer programs or a simple computer program can also be viewed as a system which contains complex interacting parts. And this the development process of a system or a program is called the system life cycle, which contains these phases: requirements, analysis, design, coding, and verification. Actually, even if we have discussed these phases separately, these phases are highly interrelated. Like analysis, design, and coding. These three phases at least are done combinedly, so that at some point of time you will go back from design to analysis phase or coding to design phase, etc. So in the requirement phase, we will collect the requirements of the system or system specification. In the analysis phase, we will select the data representations and the algorithms. The design phase, the analysis phase, we will break down our system into different simple tasks. In the design phase, we will select data objects and algorithms. In the coding phase, we will actually implement it. In the verification process, we'll try to remove errors, we'll test, and we will find out, we will write correctness proofs for our system. That's all about system life cycle. Thank you.